We're Biscuiteers, the original hand-iced biscuit company. Each year we ice around 3 million biscuits by hand, and today we'll be showing you how to ice our DIY Christmas baubles, the perfect addition to your Christmas tree. If you want to learn the basics of becoming a master icer before starting this video, head to our YouTube channel where you can find out how to make and use line icing, flood icing, and how to bake our biscuits. To follow along, you'll need our DIY baubles kit. Inside the tin you'll find all the equipment needed to decorate your Christmas bauble biscuits. You'll have some instructions, decorations, piping bags, icing sugar, ribbons and biscuits. First we need to make our icing. Put the icing sugar in a bowl and stir in a couple of spoonfuls of water until the icing is thick like toothpaste. Split the icing into two, putting a spoonful to one side. When you're happy with the consistency, open your icing bag and fold the bag down over your hand and spoon in the mixture. We want the bag to be about 2/3 full. You then need to take your bag and push the icing down to the closed end to get rid of any air pockets. Then tie a knot at the open end of it. Make a small cut at the very end of the piping bag, keeping it as close to the bottom as possible. Next, trim down the seam at the end of the bag. This creates a clean edge and allows you to see the smaller details you are icing. Pinch and put pressure on the end of the piping bag so that a small amount of icing comes out. Then pinch again to create a clean opening. Your piping bag is now ready to use. Take the remaining icing and stir in a couple more spoonfuls of water. This will make the icing thinner and will be used for our flood icing. Once happy with the consistency, take your piping bag, fold it over one hand and pour the icing in. If you want to colour your icing before adding it to the piping bag, stir in a tiny amount of food colouring. I'll demonstrate some of our top tips and techniques, but you can pipe whatever design you like onto your baubles. Take your first bauble biscuit and your line icing. Start by icing a straight line 1/3 of the way up the biscuit before joining the ends with a curve along the top, and then repeat on the bottom third of the biscuit. Don't forget to ice around the hole or your flood icing will leak through. Take your flood icing and fill in both sections of the biscuit you have outlined. It's easiest to go around the edges and then fill in the centre. Take some sprinkles and drop them over the flood icing. Be as generous as you like. Now your flood icing needs to dry. Put the biscuits in the oven at 50 degrees Celsius for around 30 minutes. Once dry, take your line icing and add 3 dots to the centre of the biscuit. Then take the larger decorations and stick them onto the icing while wet. Now add 2 more dots of icing and 2 more decorations. You can now add any final details. We've opted for small dots of line icing between the decorations and some additional lines across the centre. Take your second bauble biscuit and start by drawing a horizontal line across the centre using line icing. Outline the top half of the biscuit and don't forget to ice around the hole. Now fill in the centre with flood icing. Use the sprinkles to cover the flood icing. Use as many or as few as you like. Once you've added the sprinkles, the flood icing needs to dry. Put the biscuits in the oven at 50 degrees Celsius for around 30 minutes. Once dry, outline the bottom section of the biscuit with line icing and then add a line in the centre. From there, create a zigzag line diagonally from the bottom to the centre of each side. Take a second colour and ice along the bottom of the flooded section in a vertical motion to add texture to the bauble. Don't forget to ice the top of the bauble too around the ribbon hole. To do so, outline the shape with line icing before filling it in with a vertical motion. You can now add additional detail to the bauble. We're adding dots of line icing before sticking the larger decorations down onto them. Take your third bauble biscuit and start by adding dots of line icing around the edge of the biscuit. Then join the dots in a diagonal manner, creating diamond shapes across the biscuit. You can then fill in the central diamond with flood icing before adding sprinkles on top. It's time to dry the flood icing out. Put the biscuit in the oven at 50 degrees for about 30 minutes. Once dry, take your line icing and draw around the outside of the biscuit, outlining the bauble. Use your line icing to add dots across the biscuit and use these to secure the larger decorations down to the bauble. Try not to do more than 3 at a time so that the icing doesn't dry out. You can now add some smaller dots in different colours for decoration and finish by outlining the shapes in a different colour to give a smooth finish. Be as creative as you want. These are just a few examples of the kinds of designs you can ice with our DIY bauble set, but have fun and let your creativity shine.